Our top story tonight, Hillary is running to the far left. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Sullivan in for Neil Cavuto, and Hillary Clinton reportedly set to kick off her White House run this Sunday. And Senator Liz Warren pushing her to expand Social Security if she wins in 2016. But with the Social Security Disability Fund set to run dry in 2016, yes, next year, well, tax analyst Dan Mitchell says we don't have the money to expand anything. Dan, so the disability fund's next year, but the regular retirement fund, that's not that far down the road either.
Well, two things to understand. First of all, the Social Security Trust Fund is nothing but IOUs, so there are no real assets there. So all this talk about whether it runs out in 2034 or 2033 is in some sense irrelevant. The government can only cash those IOUs by taxing us more. But then here's the bigger problem that I have with what Elizabeth Warren is trying to encourage Hillary Clinton to do. We already are running deficits in the Social Security program, and as more and more baby boomers retire, those deficits are going to get even larger. And as a matter of fact, if you look over the next 75 years, you take all those deficits, adjust them for inflation, you're talking about $40 trillion of red ink. And so the notion that we should already in a deep hole, dig the hole deeper, is just crazy.
But every time anybody gets honest and says, I'm sorry, but the promises that have been made to you, there's no way the math is going to work where they can be kept. And the problem with that is they will break those promises when you and I are little old men. We won't be able to do anything about it. And they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, we overpromised. Then what?
I'm a little bit hopeful that what we've seen in Europe over the last several years, with the welfare states beginning to go bankrupt and suffering economic disarray, I'm hoping that that has actually sunk into the politicians in Washington, where they realize that at some point you get to a very, very bad spot if you continue to promise more and more spending beyond the private sector's capacity to finance it. And so maybe, just maybe, even though normally I'm very cynical, I think perhaps the kind of demagoguery we're seeing out of Elizabeth Warren won't go nearly as far as it used to.
Well, but people say, don't cut my benefits. Smaller government. Yeah, you're great, Dan. That's terrific. Smaller government, but don't cut my benefits. And besides that, I paid into it. That's the other argument.
Well, if we were talking about cutting Social Security benefits, you're right. We'd have the normal political opposition. But what's talked about on the left now is increasing the benefits. And maybe 20 years ago, or go back to Nixon's years when he increased benefits, maybe increasing benefits used to be politically popular. But I think that today there's a little bit more sobriety, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, on Capitol Hill, precisely because we see from Greece and other European countries the very bad things that happen when you, in effect, dig the hole even deeper than it already is.
I hope you're right. I hope that message gets through. Dan Mitchell from Cato, I thank you so much for coming by and reminding all of us. I appreciate it very much. Meantime,